Strange New Worlds Season 3 kicks off with the resolution to its big Gorn story. They've been building to this since the whole show began. Let me tell you whether it stuck the landing. Now, Strange New Worlds episodes are usually very self-contained, but they broke with that formula at the end of Season 2. A big cliffhanger left our heroes in peril, and Captain Pike facing a big challenge that could plunge the Federation into war. Now, the Gorn were from an old TOS episode called Arena, but they'd barely been used in Star Trek since then. Strange New Worlds brought them back early in its run, but with a complete revamp. The Gorn were established as these hostile predators, inscrutable monsters that can't be understood or reasoned with. This new version of the Gorn have a lot in common with the xenomorphs from the Alien franchise. They need other species to reproduce, their young growing inside an unsuspecting victim until finally bursting out. Throughout Season 2, there was foreshadowing of a bigger showdown. The Gorn hunting grounds are expanding, hostile ships are massing near the Federation border, all of this setting us up for the big two-parter. So, where did we leave things off at the cliffhanger? Well, Pike's lady love Captain Patel and Spock's paramour Nurse Chapel were on a mission to this independent planet. It's full of humans that have set up a colony where they get to roleplay as 20th century rural Midwesterners.
Made to look like the old Midwestern United States.
I'm not even joking, it's a planet of LARPers. But a shadow falls on this idyllic slice of Americana when the Gorn show up. Starfleet doesn't want a war, and the LARPing planet isn't in the Federation, so Pike is told to keep out of it and leave the LARPers and Batel's crew to their fate. Obviously, Pike isn't going to do that. So he sneaks an away team to the planet, while Spock heads into the debris field of Batel's wrecked starship. After some tense encounters, Pike gets to Batel and Spock finds Chapel. But the crew now face some big challenges. First, there's Captain Patel. Just like in Alien 3, she's got a hostile alien growing inside her. It'll hatch soon, and the clock is ticking. Then there's her crew and the surviving colonists. They've been captured and will end up as Gorn food unless they're rescued. On top of this, the Gorn fleet is moving into attack. Starfleet orders the Enterprise to withdraw, and Pike has to figure out how to save the survivors without plunging the Federation into an all-out war. So, Season 3 picks up right where we left off, and it's a very solid debut for the latest run of episodes. Strange New Worlds really feels like a show that's hit its stride. There's a confidence in how it depicts its characters. The writers know who these guys are. We know who they are, and we have firm expectations on how they'll behave in different situations.
All right, who's got ideas?
It's satisfying to see Pike listen to ideas from everyone as he figures out what to do. Spock suppresses his emotional needs in order to get on with the job. La'an faces her fears. There's a lot of nice character moments, and seeing them all back in action like this is a great reminder of why we like these characters and want to spend time in their world.
Previously on Star Trek Strange New Worlds.
After all, it has been 2 years since they last released an episode. There's also a lot of good stuff here for people who like the little details. There's a scene where Admiral April doesn't want to provoke the Gorn further, while Pike argues they need a show of force to deter them.
And the Gorn sense our weakness. We are prey.
This initially seems a bit un-Pike-like, especially if you remember A Quality of Mercy back in Season 1, where he was on the opposite side of this argument. But that time, he ended up being wrong, and he's learned from that experience. He's come to realize that diplomacy and discretion isn't always the best tactic.
Some rules are intended to be broken.
The controversy over Una's Illyrian heritage is brought up again, as they use her blood's healing properties to help heal Batel. It's a nod to what was one of their bigger story arcs, and a hint that it might not be as resolved as we think it is.
You can argue about what might or might not happen in the future. You can just set all that aside and let me hold you.
They seem to promise that this will have consequences later. And La'an's trauma at the hands of the Gorn comes back into play as well. In past episodes, we've seen her paralyzed by fear. We've seen her rage cause her to lose control. But this time, she's able to confront the crisis with cool professionalism. It feels like her arc has finally got some closure. There's also a really good sense of atmosphere in this episode. The lighting on the bridge is dark. Pike is dressed for battle the whole time. Everyone's on edge. The stakes feel big. And here is where they really reap some dividends from their world building. The decision to kill off Hemmer the Engineer in Season 1 was surprising, and not everyone liked it. But the result was to enhance the sense of threat hanging over the remaining characters. There's moments when it really feels possible that Batel, or maybe even Ortegas, could be in actual jeopardy here. Now, what holds this episode back a little is that the plot is relatively simple.
They react instinctively to solar activity. We may be able to use that against them.
They telegraphed what the solution to the Gorn threat was going to be back in part 1, that they'd use solar flares to stop the rampage. Most of the audience is probably ahead of the bridge crew as they struggle to figure this out.
We even know precisely what kind of radiation signature would tell the Gorn to go to sleep.
And once they decide on their daring plan to create a pacifying solar flare, they just go and do it without any major complications. They just do a bunch of technobabble and do the thing. It's a bit neat and tidy and a bit by the numbers. Thematically, this episode is also a bit on the simple side.
Focus on hope.
Pike is on the verge of giving into despair, but has to knuckle under and get the job done.
As you suggested, perhaps we just need a little faith.
Chapel and Spock have to suck it up and make life or death choices for Batel and trust that it'll all work out. And La'an rises to the occasion and overcomes her trauma, leading the survivors as they fight their way off the Gorn ship. It's about not giving up and keeping hope alive. Nothing mind-blowingly profound. But I'll admit, there's a nice scene where Una reminds a struggling Pike to remember his own lessons to them. A sort of full circle moment where he gets to lean on his crew for emotional support, just as they've always relied on him. All in all, it's a decent curtain raiser. It delivers some good action, some tension, some character moments. It's not a classic, but it's a good reminder of how engaging this cast of characters is, and why we like this show. A taster in anticipation of what will hopefully be more interesting adventures ahead. So what did you think of the season premiere? Let me know in the comments. That's all for this one. I'll be seeing you.